بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیکم. میں ہوں ڈاکٹر ثانیہ چودھری اور آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں یوٹیوب چینل. آج ہم اپنے ایک نئی منی سیریز جو شروع کی تھی آن کیریئر اینڈ کالج کاؤنسلنگ آف ینگ اسٹوڈنٹس، اس کے اوپر اپنا سیکنڈ انٹرویو آج ہم کر رہے ہیں. اور لاسٹ انٹرویو تھا ہمارا نور نذیر کے ساتھ، اور آج ہم انٹرویو کر رہے ہیں ایمان نذیر. شی از دی ایلڈر سسٹر آف نور نذیر. اور یہ جب نور سے ہم انٹرویو کر رہے تھے تو انہوں نے اس میں شی اسپوک ویری highly about a few things about Eman, so we couldn't refrain from bringing her over for this interview. تو آج ہمیں جوائن کر رہی ہیں ایمان نذیر، اور آئیں چلیں ان سے کہتے ہیں ہمیں اپنے بارے میں کچھ بتائیں. Thank you very much, Eman, for joining us here. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's always a pleasure. Or you're visiting here from Berkeley.
Yes.
And this is the next semester is going to be your last semester there, and you have a lot of things about US, about Berkeley, about Washington, Capitol Hill to tell us.
Yeah, so I'm currently a senior at Berkeley. And I'm studying environmental economics and policy.
Okay.
And public policy.
Okay.
And
I'll start asking you a few questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me something. Were you always looking to go into Berkeley?
No, not exactly.
Okay. How did you end up there?
So I do think that over like high school ke daran and everything, I did have kind of a journey where I was figuring out what I wanted to do. I always did have a lot of ambition.
Okay.
But like first I was deciding between like medical school.
Okay.
And at that point I actually did not want to go abroad because I was like, it will take less time in Pakistan. So I'll stay here.
There's some good things about Pakistan.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then when I was in O levels, that's when I kind of realized that I want to go abroad. And at that point, I did know that I did want to stay in California.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to study in California. And I never really, like, Berkeley was on one of my top of my schools, but
Okay.
it was not my...
The only one.
Yeah.
Or the one you were looking to.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll talk about preparing to go to university first.
Yeah.
So how was life at the time when you were preparing for school admission and getting ready with all the credentials to get into a good university?
I think the way the admissions process even worked in the past, like 4 years ago when I applied, and now there is a difference. But I do think in a lot of ways it's very similar as well. For me, I knew since I was like in grade 8 that whether or not I was going to be in Pakistan or not, because I was never 100% sure, so I wanted to be prepared either way, okay. Whatever was going to happen. And so that kind of process of building my application in a way began from like when I was in grade 7, grade 8.
Okay.
And obviously it takes baby steps to figure out, okay, how am I supposed to do this, especially when you don't have a proper path to follow, when you don't have that set or you don't know what you're supposed to do. So that gradually builds up over time. And I do, like in A levels specifically, like that application process got much more intense when you're figuring out, and you get a little bit more direction because you do get older.
Oh yeah.
And you
as you mature,
yeah,
and you have more experience of things around you.
Yeah, so you get more access to resources because you are older as well.
Yeah.
So that's definitely when it took a lot more shape. And for me, when I was applying, I was doing something a little different at that time than what a lot of other students were doing.
Like what?
So I applied as a Quest for Scholar in my A2.
Okay.
Which was the first time someone from Pakistan applied for that program.
Okay.
And through that program, I was able to apply to a lot more universities than I could have, and I didn't even have to pay for the application process.
That's very interesting. I'm sure a lot of our viewers would like to benefit from that too. Okay.
So that really helped me in certain ways, and I ended up, like, this is probably something that not I don't recommend. I didn't want my sister to apply to that many schools, but I ended up applying to 40 schools.
Okay.
So that was 40 applications.
Okay, that was a very hard work.
That was a little overboard.
Okay.
But it just made me more like less nervous about the whole process, because I do think it's so daunting. And
the chances of getting into a university would be higher.
Yeah, like usually normally people would apply to like.
But it's no harm if anybody has the stamina and the nerves to go through 40 applications.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Okay. Is that a record?
No, I don't know. Probably, I don't know.
Maybe you should check with Guinness. Okay.
It was definitely tough, but it definitely was something. It was a process that I learned through a lot as well. And it was hard, and I feel like no matter how many universities you're applying to, the process is hard, regardless. And it's very scary, especially because of the way I feel like the application process is taught in Pakistan as well. And that's not something that I understood really well when I was applying, because you're in that system at that moment. Mm-hmm. And I think it took me that after I got accepted into college, and then when I went to college, and when I kind of compared the admissions process between the students I was surrounded in California versus the kind of mindset we have here, where it's just this end-all be-all kind of, like perception that there are only these certain top-tier universities that you should go to, otherwise that experience is useless, or otherwise it's not worth it. And if you don't make it to those universities, that you're not good enough. You wasted your life. Yeah. Okay. That you're not qualified enough. That's why you didn't get in. But I feel like that's so much further from the truth, because there are so many universities, not just in America, but all across the world. And every experience, every university will shape everyone in a different way.
Of course, certainly.
And obviously going to like an Ivy League school or a top tier school is great. It's a big achievement. But I don't think that takes away from students who go to other schools as well, and I don't think that it decreases any chance of the way that like their future success could look like if they put in that hard work, regardless of where they are.
Okay. While you were preparing for your university, would you like to guide the students regarding how they should I'd say divide their time and their focus between academics and extracurricular activities?
Okay, so
which has a greater weightage from a university point of view, according to your experience?
Okay. So I think it depends a lot on where you're applying. Okay. So if you are applying to more schools in the UK, or if you're applying to more schools in the US, I think that whole issue of prioritizing things is very different. So for the UK, I would say that there is not that much weight on your extracurriculars, but your academics are much more important, especially because we do follow like the Cambridge system. Yeah. So I feel like that has a lot more weight. But for the US, I do feel like there's so many different multiple components to the application. Like you have your essays, you have your supplements, you have your scores, your grades, and you have your extracurriculars. And I think for that process, which I could speak more confidently about, is every single thing holds equal weight. Okay. If you don't prioritize your extracurriculars, if you don't prioritize the quality of your essays, even if you have the best scores, it does not guarantee that you're gonna get accepted. And I think like even for me, that was something that I guess going to the school that I went to, it was something that was already kind of like enforced in a certain way that, you need to prioritize like both things. And I do think when it comes to applying to America, your O-level grades are very important. Those should definitely not be you should not like put them to the side at all. Okay. But at the same time, you also have to focus on your extracurriculars. Okay. And I think everything should be prioritized equally.
Okay. When you went to Berkeley for the first time and you were settling in, and it was a totally new place, how tough was it?
Oh, it was really tough. To be very honest, it was, for me, it was a very big learning journey, because I feel like Pakistan it's a very small country, and
it's a very protected country in many ways.
Yeah, in many ways.
And in many ways it's not protected at all.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But it's like over here, because it's such a small country, when everyone is applying to like colleges, and like when there's competition and all of that stuff, everyone knows who's applying from, no matter where they are, even if they're in Karachi or Lahore, Islamabad, because it is such a small pool of students who are applying and going.
Yeah.
And when you're here, you're kind of used to, like, you know, in a certain sense of having that familiarity with exactly what's going on, or what the competition is. But over there, it's like, when I went to Berkeley specifically, I felt like I honestly didn't feel like I was actually smart, or like I had like, it was like imposter syndrome.
You had been exposed to the greater world.
Yeah, exactly. And it was competitive in such a different way for me than something that I'd seen here. And it was definitely a tough journey, and it took me a while to actually figure out how I'm supposed to succeed at Berkeley, and how I'm supposed to study at Berkeley, because even the way we grew up studying in Pakistan was so much more different than it was like in a lot of schools in America.
I think the educational systems in Pakistan and outside of Pakistan are totally two, I think, different.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think here growing up, it was always, whether O levels, A levels, or any grade below that, I think it's always so focused on, we're preparing you for an exam, and only that exam matters. Actually learning, understanding the concept is not the priority. Acing that exam is the priority. And obviously, like, grades are
grades
are the priority. And obviously, even in Berkeley, like, your GPA, your grades are are a certain
are important.
Are important. But the way the classes are structured, the way you are expected to learn, it goes so much beyond that.
The participation, the creativity, how you are taking the entire experience.
And what are you taking away from it?
Exactly.
Because that learning goes beyond that class.
Yeah.
It's something that you do want to, like, hold on to yourself for, like, your career, for your own learning purposes.
Yeah, like, I always like to say about the education system or the learning system in Pakistan is just to prepare you for your university.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And about the how universities and the education systems of other countries, especially of the developed countries, they prepare you for the world.
Yeah, they prepare you for the world, and they prepare you to figure yourself out.
Exactly.
To be very honest, before I was applying, I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I was like, eventually I decided that I'm going to become an engineer, and I had my whole life trajectory planned out. And I wasn't really exposed to a lot of different possibilities here. But when I did go there, and after my first year, I realized, okay, I don't want to be an engineer. I cannot study physics for like the next 4 years.
Well, you will be surprised to know, actually the times to which you belong to as a student were totally different to the times when I belonged to the world as a student. And my times, it was only you are either a doctor or you are a teacher, and there was nothing in between. So from that point, the world changed to your world, where you had many possibilities and options and opportunities available in Pakistan as of today. But even when we compare this to the West or to the developed world, East, West, North, South, anywhere, when you compare it to that, I mean, they're just eons apart.
Yeah, there's a huge gap between them.
And between them and us.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of how we see the world, how we see education or governance or anything, politics, anything. I mean, it's... Anyhow, okay, we'll go on, continue with your interesting experience.
Yeah, no, like, I feel like that's a great kind of way to put it. because even though, you know, things have changed so much from your time to my time, and even in my sister's time, but I feel like there is still, when you compare those possibilities, there is so much difference, because when I was going to college, I was always told that there's like a certain professional experience, that a degree that I need to get, and that's the only way I will get, you know, stability, financial stability, life stability, and that the options where you either become like a doctor or an engineer. Everyone is a little bit not so sure about being a lawyer, because
for obvious reasons, okay.
But you know, those are kind of still most of the options, that those
options have increased, but more or less they're still on the same line.
Yeah, or at least those are even if there were more options, people didn't want to accept that there were more options. Yeah. And I think it took me to go there to see so many different things that people were studying, and the possibilities that do exist, the different careers that do exist. And I was so grateful for that. I ended up studying environmental economics and policy, and I had never studied economics before I went to college. I didn't even think that was something I wanted to do. I did know that I wanted to study something climate related, environmental related. And I wanted to do something similar to that, but I still wanted to do something that was, you know, kind of like a middle ground for what my family expected me to do and what I wanted to do. Okay. And then I ended up falling in love with it. Okay. And it wasn't the path that I exactly saw for myself, but I believe that it paved an even better path than what you had
intended initially. Okay, tell us something about the internship you have done recently this summer in Washington, and in a very interesting place that is called the Capitol Hill.
Yes.
Tell me, did you meet Biden, Trump, Obama, anybody there by chance?
I didn't. I did have a couple of meetings with some congressmen and a senator, but it was, so this summer I basically interned for two environmental climate policy organizations. Okay. One was called the Climate Reality Project, which was actually founded by the ex-Vice President Al Gore. Okay. So
And you met him?
I didn't. I saw him on like a video conference. I did not meet him though. Okay. But no, I interned there.
And I was just wondering if those people exist in reality, or it's only holograms that we see.
I still wonder that. But so I interned for them, and then I interned for another nonprofit organization. It was the Plastic Pollution Coalition. Okay. And for me, though, it was definitely, I think, a very critical point of my understanding of what exactly I wanted out of my career. Okay. And having that internship and living in DC for...
So you will be settling in DC.
Oh, that's the dream. I want to end up there. I just found the whole environment and...
Very lively and positive, I presume. Controlling the world.
Yeah, very ambitious. I loved it.
Okay. But so in future, I think our ruling elite should be negotiating with you.
I hope so. But no, it was definitely, I felt very at the heart of everything being in DC, because I'm very interested in politics, and although I definitely am, my priority and my passions align with climate change and environmental work, but I want to do a lot of policy work out of that. Okay. So for me, being in DC I felt like at the heart of everything, you know, and that whole kind of just that energy of being there motivated me even more, and I felt like, okay, this is where I belong, this is where I need to go. Okay. And those internships themselves they really exposed me to so many different aspects of my career, and they gave me so much more professional experience that I needed to be sure that, okay, this is my path. And I think that's so important for everyone to have those different experiences. And it was I learned so much that summer, And then I ended up continuing one of my internships remotely, which ended last week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that organization specifically, it was a much bigger organization than the other one. So they had multiple different teams that were working on so many different issues related to climate change, whether it was policy work, whether it was more fundraising, whether it was their own global trainings, because they have branches all across the world.
Okay.
So they have these large-scale global trainings that bring a lot of those branches together. So whether it was working with that, it was definitely, I was able to take a lot from that. And
even listening to you, I can take a lot from that. Sitting right here. Okay.
And it definitely solidified that this is what I love.
Okay. All the best to you. And thank you very much for being here with us and giving us a lot of information about how life outside of Pakistan in universities, in policy making, and generally is. And we hope we will have you again at some point when you are actually working with some of the top senators and their organizations. So I hope it has been as learning and experience for you as it has been for me. And just listening to her, I feel like applying for another university myself and adding another degree to my kitty. So, but I think I'll stick to the interviews for now. And thank you very much for viewing us. And we'll hopefully try and bring something new for you next time. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz. And there's nobody to talk about. Chalo ji.